My report deals at some length both with the status of women in Saudi Arabia and with the treatment of female domestic migrant workers.
The kingdom continues to promote human rights and to promote the enjoyment of everyone, citizens and residents alike, of their rights. We highly value the recommendations enshrined in the report, and we will follow up these recommendations.
United Nations Watch has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank the Special Rapporteur for his report on Saudi Arabia, which documents the monarchy's gross and systematic violation of women's rights. We reject what Saudi Arabia just said before, that they respect human rights. Professor Alston, we have only one question for you today, but first we wish to cite some of the evidence in your report. Saudi Arabia, as you note at paragraph 41, ranks among the world's worst violators of gender equality. Saudi Arabia, as you note at paragraph 45, is the only country in the world where women are prohibited from driving. In 2014, Lujain al-Hathlul, a Saudi women's rights activist, was jailed for 73 days. What was her crime? The crime of driving while being a woman. This Sunday, as BBC reported, she was just arrested again. In Saudi Arabia, as you note at paragraph 46, public sector employment is segregated and confined to limited posts. In the response that Saudi Arabia submitted to you, they justified a policy of separate but equal. There are no female judges in Saudi Arabia, no female prosecutors. In Saudi Arabia, as you note at paragraph 48, there is little space for women to participate in public policy making. No organizations are allowed to work on women's rights or on human rights at all. Indeed, at footnote 45, you note that Saudi Arabia jailed one of its most prominent women's rights activists, Samar Badawi. In Saudi Arabia, there's an online campaign to end its oppressive system, requiring women to have male guardians to travel, marry, work, or get health care. These restrictions last from birth until death. In view of the Saudi state, women are permanent legal minors. Professor Alston, in light of the above, do you believe it was appropriate for the United Nations to elect Saudi Arabia to its Commission on the Status of Women, the principal UN agency on gender equality and the empowerment of women? Do you believe Saudi Arabia is qualified to be an elected member of this Human Rights Council? Thank you, Mr. President.
I was asked by an NGO whether Saudi Arabia should be a member of this council. That's not a question for me to answer, but I have to say that I think such questions are a distraction and a gross oversimplification and most unhelpful. I think what we need is to ensure engagement with countries like Saudi Arabia. The situation of women, the situation of other groups remains well behind the standards that we can expect, but they will only be improved through engagement and not through attempts to stigmatize.